Hello, we are being recorded and live streamed. We're not starting the meeting yet until we have 6 or more council members, voting council members. So, and we're at 5 right now. This is a working business meeting, everyone. And so there will be no public speaking sessions, unfortunately. Okay, with Kaushik Das, we now have 6 council members. Okay, Kush, you've been made a co-host as well.
Hello.
I apologize for the delay.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
All right, before we move on to roll call, just want to mention again that we have 2 council members. One who won't be showing up today, she can't attend, is Robin Broshi, and the other council member, Chen Kwok, will be late. He's on, congratulations to Chen Kwok, I should state. He's a member of the mayor-elect Eric Adams education team.
Transition team.
Yeah, transition team. There we go. So he is in their meeting, and I think he'll be joining in about half an hour. So welcome everyone. This meeting's being live streamed, and it is our final meeting of the year. It's also being recorded. It's a working business meeting, so a lot of little technical issues that the council wasn't able to get to during our monthly calendar meeting, and hopefully this will be a much faster meeting than our last 6-hour plus meeting. With that, I'd like to pass it over to Janie for our roll call, please.
Great, thank you. Okay, so Robin Bush is absent. Kush? Kaushik, I saw you there. So he's present. Daniela?
Here.
Lupe?
Present.
Robin Kelleher?
Here.
Chen Kwok will be arriving later. Benjamin Morton?
Here.
Ushma Neal?
Here.
Limpong Sim is here. Leonard Silverman?
I don't see him.
See him, okay. Lily Wu? See her, okay. Gabriela Calabia?
Here.
Great, we have a quorum, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Janie. All right, so our second item on our agenda is the open meeting laws update from FACE. Hopefully council members have had an opportunity to see it, the email that FACE Michelle Chang sent to us. Are there any questions with regards to that? Because there were a number of items that she dealt with. She answered over 16 questions, a number of them to do with resolutions and letters, and what's expected to be discussed during open meetings, and what may be discussed via email, electronically, or between members. I just wanted to bring this opportunity. I'm not sure if she's with us today, but yes, she isn't able to attend today. She's on vacation, I believe. But if there are any questions, we have Jennifer Greenblatt here. So this is your opportunity to discuss them in our open meeting. Oh, Luca, you have your hand up.
Thank you. I know I do see that you put it further down in the agenda, but this does actually have to do with a lot of those legal questions that we did ask in the beginning of our term. So is it okay that we discuss the letter writing process?
Since it's part of the email. Yes, sure.
Okay, I just want to make sure everyone.
Well, she did raise it in the email, so that sure.
Right. And we've also had discussions since that email that was finally answered, which I believe, and maybe Jennifer can clarify since Michelle's not here, but I believe Michelle had actually provided those answers for legal and for them to basically say yay or nay or be able to clarify if different. And I know in the beginning of our term, I think what launched a lot of the questions regarding the letter writing process was the expedient need for the busing letter that we wrote back in August. And that kind of raised questions, I think, for people on the council in regards to how the letter process would work. I am still quite confused, and I've talked to Michelle about this at most of our check-ins, in the fact that I know what she's provided for us as far as information when it comes to letters and open meeting law was that it is mere suggestion, but not a definitive, because I did specifically ask about letters that are needed in a time sensitive, that are unable to come to a calendar or business meeting in order to be voted on, and that many other councils continue and have in the past, and even CEC has in the past, when time sensitive issues were arising, that a letter was be able to be circulated as merely, would you like to sign on? If you'd like to sign on, as designee signed on, if 6 or more were willing to sign on, then we were able to use CEC letterhead. And I did ask her about this because the letter that we had drafted to send to Corey Johnson would have been much better sent prior to the week of our calendar meeting. And that's why we took it off of the working business meeting tonight, because it just didn't make any sense. The hearing had already taken place, and unfortunately that bill was not aged. But it would have been really helpful to act like many other CECs in the regard of passing a letter via email. And again, not open for discussion so much, but literally writing a letter asking as a council, do you support this? And if having 6 or more council members supporting, being able to have the ability to use CEC head paper to be able to send that in a timely fashion. I did specifically ask her about this, and she did say what she wrote in the email to us in that regard from legal was a mere suggestion. So I wanted to kind of discuss as a council, and she said it's really up to you guys as a council to decide which letters would be required to vote as opposed to being able to just be signed on. And like I said in the past, CEC, if time did permit, I know CECs would vote, but she did not say that it was mandated as to resolutions.
Okay, I'll let the other council members speak next, but I just want to point out there was a resolution passed last May about having smaller classroom sizes.
Yes, we did. Yes.
You could have as a council member now, Ushma was certainly voted on that or was aware of that. And so it was Robin Broshi. You could have forwarded that
We did.
resolution, which is on letterhead.
So that was going to be included in the letter.
Or you could have still, without having a letter, you could have still forwarded that, and that is on letterhead.
That what it
So
was.
there was
It
nothing holding you back from sending that out.
And we did. We
Okay.
did.
All right.
That was sent. That was supported, and it was not, the letter that we were sending was actually supporting the resolution that was already passed, but it was asking Corey Johnson to actually put the vote on the agenda, which
Right,
was
but
time sensitive. So the resolution just supported the letter that basically stating, we as a CEC have already passed a resolution in regards to making class size smaller. And we are urging Corey Speaker Johnson to add the bill that was a supermajority veto-proof bill that had it been on the agenda prior to council being changed, we would have done a lot in the citywide level to be able to reduce class sizes.
But as you're fully aware, most advocacy for resolutions are done without CEC letterhead. It's done by individual council members sending out resolutions that are already on the letterhead. But I'd like to give Daniela an opportunity. She had her hand up first now, or you have your hand up. Yeah. And then we'll go to Kusha and Jane.
Okay.
My question is just what exactly from the email that Michelle sent to us, it seems to me that, first of all, that's the legal opinion of DOE. And I think that, you know, some people have raised that another legal might have a different opinion about some of those aspects, but it's not clear to me what is she saying there that it's optional and what is she saying there that it's open meeting law. And so I think would just be good for all of us to have clear what in that email is actually optional and what it is that DOE legal thinks it is part of the open meeting law. Oh, and just so one more thing, I think on the class size, I would not just assume that all new members have the same opinion as it was passed last May. And I think it would be good for us to, you know, at some point, if this actually becomes like a real item at the city council, to have an opportunity to have a discussion among the new members.
Okay, Kush.
Yeah.
I can't hear you, Kush.
I need to get a headset.
All right, now. Janie, do you want to go?
Sure. So my question goes back to Michelle's email. It's still not clear to me what is the guidance with regards to when we want to use the CEC letterhead and the process and procedures. It seems to me that there has to be some sort of prescription for this. It can't be like every time we want to do this, we have to talk about it. You know, Jennifer Greenblatt, is there specific case, you know, a kind of a decision tree that's already prescribed? And if not, then is it the case that we as CECD2 are going to come up with what we agree to be the prescriptive process for using letterhead? And if that's a yes, wouldn't that be a little strange? Because then wouldn't you want to have the prescription uniform across all CECs, or are you going to let every single CEC come up with their own methodology in which they want to do this, which I think would be very confusing? It was a long-winded question for Jennifer, if there's any specific guidance.
So I'm not gonna answer on this, since Michelle is the one who had the contact with legal. If I had the contact, I'd be happy to answer, but I don't want to give you wrong direction and have you waste your time figuring something out. So I'm gonna pass on that one.
Okay, so it feels like it does feel like, based on Lupe's comment, that it's not very clear. Like, is that a fair assessment, Lupe? That it's not, you're not like, okay, I got the email and I know exactly what to do. It still feels like it's quite nebulous. So is the right action plan to, if Michelle says there is no prescription, then the question is it our responsibility as CECD2 to come up with what the rules are? And if that is the case, is it going to be just for us, or is it they're going to take that and make that uniform? Because my fear in doing something just for one like the CECs, there should be some uniform process. And I think having every single CEC do something slightly different, I think is just going to make things very confusing.
I will say one thing to that. There are times when it's up to the discretion of the CEC to decide what they want to do and sort of make their own policy on this.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like PAs and PTAs and SLTs. Not everyone does everything the same exact way. There are some flexibilities there. So that may be the case here.
No, I understand. Okay.
I just want to point out that in Michelle's answers, she was clear that the writing of the letter, the editing of the letter, that is more informal. But the actual discussion of the letter and the necessity to vote on the letter must be done in an open meetings law, in an open meeting such as this. So
may I respond, Ben, to Janie?
Wait, can I respond?
Yeah, Kush had his hand up before.
So two comments here. One, yeah, I think so. First of all, I think Michelle was clear that, and this is generally true of any legal opinion in my business experience. Any legal opinion is just that. It's just a legal opinion. It doesn't necessarily hold up in a court of law. The more legal opinions you have, the more conservative it is. The more number of legal opinions you have that say the same thing, the more likely it is to hold up in a court of law. But it really doesn't mean anything. So at the end of the day, we can do whatever we want, and we probably should just come up with a consistent policy. That said, I thought we kind of had created a policy, which I'm open to revisiting. But here's how I see it. We did an informal ad hoc letter per Lupe's request, which was pretty unanimous, and we sent it off. We got some further guidance from Michelle that made us question that. But beyond that, I would say that several of us who went through extraordinary efforts to pass through 3 resolutions at the beginning of our term, we were questioned heavily and criticized heavily for loose application of methodology. And I would say, and I made that argument then, that the same applied to the letter that we passed through per Lupe's request. Because of that, I think, and this is my interpretation of it, I think we've adopted a more stringent policy of requiring a meeting and requiring a vote to have it on letterhead. And that is because I, and for one, did not enjoy at all the hypocrisy of having to be flexible on one and not on the other, even though our resolutions are also time sensitive in several regards. So I will happy to do what we agreed to, but that history and context is very important. It's very, very important. And if we disagree at all, I'm going to insist on the more stringent method, because we seem to get criticism when we play it fast and loose, but when somebody else needs it fast and loose for urgency purposes, because it's a good cause or whatever the need may be, it can't work both ways. We have to be consistent in how we view it for anything that we view as time urgent.
Okay, Lupe, please.
Janie, I'll have to be reminded of what you had asked me, but I will address Kush first. I think key thing here is it wasn't a resolution. I think resolutions are very clear cut, that they need to be brought to the public and discussed, and open meeting law definitely does apply, as well as the amount of time that I think let me just say this, it may not even pertain to the 3 resolutions you're speaking about at our first meeting, which was, I think, appalling to 3 of us, never have seen the resolution until we sat down at the table to vote on it. And then there was 7 people that had actually co-sponsored, which completely violates decorum and open meeting law, which is very different. Letters are looked at differently. In fact, letters we don't, and I think Jennifer's right when she says maybe this is something that we do need to address in our bylaws. So just to address it's not hypocrisy. It was the fact that 3 of us never even saw it. And then recently in November, there was an additional open meetings law change that required for public documents to be available 24 hours prior. I think that although a lot of us are adhering to that, I don't think that it is too much of an ask to circulate resolutions and or letters, right? Or whatever public documents you guys are bringing, or we are all bringing to these council meetings, at least circulate them to our council members as early as possible. I think that it's fair for us to be able to see what's going to be on the agenda and bring back to our communities to be able to discuss these issues and get the feedback that we need in a timely manner, to be able to advocate and really speak on the resolutions at hand. I know that schools that I've liaison for, unfortunately, a lot of times we're getting these resolutions 24 hours before, and the
excuse me,
parents
that's incorrect. Every resolution, not counting July's, every resolution that has been presented to the council has been presented 72 hours in advance, as per the bylaws. So let's not provide misinformation here. It's 72 hours. Every single one has been posted to our website at that time. And the email blasts have gone out. The initial email blasts have been sent out at around that same time as well. 72 hours in advance.
I think there was another monthly meeting, and we don't need to nitpick, Ben. It's
No, it's 72 hours. I don't want any misinformation, please.
But that's
and let's not
true.
filibuster. Let's get to the point because we have other council members.
Your point of order, you're interrupting me. I did say that I was
There was
only
misinformation.
It's not. There's plenty of misinformation that has been spread amongst this council. I do not interrupt when they do that. I know for a fact there was another month that Ushma, Robin, and I only received these documents minutes before the meeting actually started. So it wasn't just July, and that's okay. My point is that I think it's important that even if we are working on documents, that we circulate them to each other just to know. It would be helpful. And again, discussing these resolutions, discussing letters, that's completely different. Notification, keeping us abreast, I don't think is an issue. And that's where we go back to letters. Letters being different than resolutions. And I think what opened the can of worms with the letter that we wrote in August was this discussion. My email simply stated, this is a letter that I am sending. If you support this, please let me know. It was a yes or no question. And if more than 6 of us agreed, then it meets the requirement to be put on CEC letterhead. Now, at that time, when there were some suggestions to be made as far as edits and concerns, that's where it became a problem. And I think that's where the issues rose. But again, I stress this, if we are circulating a document, a letter, and saying, I am sending this letter, would you like to support? That's not discussion. It's yes, I would like to be signed on, and it doesn't need to wait to a calendar, or even the way you ended up pushing my letter to the working business meeting, which I felt was not necessary either, because I think we kind of knew going in, we were not even going to get to the working business meeting. And I think an email was sent actually requesting for that item to be moved. And we were then told to motion. And by that time, it didn't matter. Yet other agenda items have been motioned to be put on the same day, the same time, including resolutions, including letters and documentations that were not circulated 72 hours before. We have done it. We're not as stringent. This council, even prior to the council members that are serving on this term, I think CEC, when needed, have sent letters without voting on them. And then when there was time that they needed discussion, they were definitely added to the calendar meeting. And I think that going forward, that's something that still can be done. I think if we have enough time, if it's something, a matter that can be taken time to put on our calendar meeting or working business meeting, and we can actually discuss it, it needs to be discussed, it needs to be arranged, and we have the time to do it, absolutely, why not? In certain circumstances, as we've all seen, and again, resolution is very different than a letter. And so in that sense, that was what I was proposing. It was not clear, and I have asked Michelle, because many councils were able to send letters, and organizations that work with CECs simply said, well, letters don't need to be voted on. Why are you guys waiting to your calendar meeting to actually discuss this letter? And it seems like if we're the only CEC doing this, I did ask Michelle at our last check-in, she said, well, it's not the law. It is a mere suggestion. And you as a council can decide what it is, how you want to handle these type of situations. And I think that, again, time-sensitive issues are different. And it's not, if it's not a discussion, it's literally, if you don't agree with the letter, if you don't agree with the content of that letter, you are more than welcome to just say, no, thank you, keep my name off, and that's fine. And Janie, I apologize. I'm not sure. I lost what it was that you had asked me that I was going to address prior to.
No, I think you basically, you conveyed it wasn't exactly clear cut, but I think
not clear cut, right.
I do think that what you describe, by way of process and procedures seems logical, but then the thing that's not prescriptive is if you have a scenario where everybody agrees, then it's a very simple dialogue. But then if there's a threshold where, let's say, half of us agree and half of us don't, is it the case that we just stop and then it gets flipped over to official business? Or, I think that there has to be some other protocol, that's more clearly defined to say, if everybody agrees, okay, we can do it very quickly. But if it goes to a point where it's beyond a yes, and if it's no, or if there needs to be more discussion, then there has to be protocol that it gets put on the agenda, and it kind of unfortunately you're not going to be able to do it quickly. But I guess that's the point, is that if you don't have complete agreement, then it needs to be further discussed.
And do you mean in the sense of, if 6 people don't want to sign on and only 3 people are signing on to this letter, why is it that the 3 people still can't send the letter and it's just not on CEC letterhead?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's where I'm going with this. I think that it's, and this, I think there's nothing that we as the CEC can do to make you as individuals not send out the letter, but then it's clear that you sign the letters as yourselves as opposed to CEC members. But I think the whole point of going through this process is the power of numbers, power of backing of the committee. So, I think I would like a little bit more, a better prescription. So there's less, I feel like sometimes things happen so quickly and then everything seems so nebulous. And then people are like, well, I thought it was this way, I thought it was that way. I think if we can just, have some sort of prescriptive that, if we have this number, it goes through. If not, we have to table it. There's going to be like, an agreed upon procedure. So it's clear for, you know, and I think we don't have an agreed upon procedure. And I think you individually, collectively, we've gone back to Michelle to get kind of bits and pieces of answers. So I think we know what we can't do. I think it's up to us to figure out what we can do. So I guess the question for Ben or for whomever is it the case that one of us should put together an agreed upon procedures and circulate it to all the members, and then the members can, you know, say yay, nay, edit, whatever, and then that's something that we present at our next calendar meeting?
I think
just
that's
to
a
be-
great idea. I do think we have had a bit of a procedure this year in the last few months. We did not have any procedures in the previous term, and they were never discussed in open meeting laws, in open meetings.
Right.
So I'm speaking. The procedure that we've been having is bringing it up during business meetings. The last 4 or 5 business meetings, we've had letters that have been brought up. They've been discussed. And since the 24-hour notice law came out, we've been providing the letters to the public 24 hours in advance. And I believe that's a fair a method process. Now, I'm not sure how much more we can do besides that, but if maybe we can vote on that at our next business meeting or this meeting. We can make a motion on that.
Can I ask Jennifer a quick question just to in regards to what Janie was saying?
Can others have a chance to
Yes,
speak?
yes.
I haven't spoken yet.
Robin had her
I'm
hand
sorry,
raised.
I
She
haven't
hasn't
It's a
talked
quick
yet.
about
question.
15
It's a
minutes.
quick question, and it's just in regards to what Janie was saying. And I also had asked
You are
it in my
speaking.
original
You're
question.
you're dominating the
Point of,
conversation. There are 2 other council members who have their
point
hand
of order, Daniela.
Point of
I had asked
order.
No.
Jennifer a question to begin with,
And then this is
and
the
she
last.
never got an opportunity to respond. And I just want to clarify for Janie that there is already a prescription in place as far as the amount of council members that is needed to put a letter on count CEC letterhead, which is 6. Is that correct, Jennifer? That I know you can at least.
Yes, 6 is correct.
Thank you. So
Okay,
if
Robin.
less than 6, then it doesn't go regardless if everyone disagrees or agrees.
Robin Kelleher, have your hand. You haven't had an opportunity to speak.
Sorry, I'm exhausted. This is the 3rd night of meetings for many of us, and I've had many points to make, but I have actually lost a lot of my train of thought in the last half an hour. But I would like to ask that we have a time limit to how much people can say each time they speak, and to how many times they can respond, because I can't stay up until 1:30 and not finish this and have to speak again in a couple of days. It's exhausting, and I ask that we move along with the agenda. And I want to say, Lupe, in an ideal world, all of this would happen. We'd have plenty of time. I know that several of us have worked on the majority of the resolutions that have been brought to the table, and we've tried to abide by all the requests to have them in a timely manner so that they can be circulated, especially once that was brought up. We had a resolution at the last meeting that was no longer relevant by the time it was brought to the table and had to be edited in a ridiculous manner during the meeting. I understand it's frustrating, but we do have a due process. And I also at times would love to send, I'm sorry, what? I see your lips moving, but I can't hear you. So I'd like to finish before you. Okay, I think you're saying you're muted, but if your lips are moving, it's difficult to speak to you because I don't know if you're trying to have a conversation. But I just ask that we have the same respect for everyone on the council, so that when you ask for a certain amount of days before resolutions are the 3 days in advance. I think there's nothing since we took that down to the second to heart. Working often late into the night and through the night to get the resolutions out. I think the same has to be true for letters. And of course, you can send anything you want. We all can individually, but we can't demand to have the letterhead if we don't vote on it or speak about it in a proper format, in a place. I see you disagree, and I'm sorry you disagree. This is just my chance to express how I feel. And I waited long enough to say that. So that's it. Please, I don't actually want to speak about this again. So I'm passing on all my turns to anyone else.
Kush and Janie have their hands raised. Kush, can't hear you. You're muted.
Sorry. You can hear me now, right? I just want to make some corrections, things that were stated incorrectly. First of all, absolutely no resolution has been submitted less than 72 hours in advance. I know this because I've written at least one resolution every single time we have met. The only exception was the first meeting. As we pointed to, and again, this is where I think the hypocrisy comes in. As we reminded everyone at the time, there was no mechanism in our bylaws, and we checked this with Jennifer Greenblatt several times, which she can attest to. There was no mechanism in the bylaws for us to share those documents with anyone who wasn't sponsoring it. There wasn't. You can check it. You can check the conversations that I had with Greenblatt. That was what was determined. We were not allowed to share it with anyone else until we brought it to all members of the public at once, which we did. Several individuals, including Daniela, went out and printed 40 copies to abide by our bylaws as we cleared with Jennifer Greenblatt at that time. So nothing was violated over there. Furthermore, open meeting law was not violated, strictly speaking, with having more than 5 people on a thing. Again, if you look at Michelle's email carefully, that is again a legal opinion, not a requirement. There is some gray area and some fuzziness around how emails are handled, how resolutions are written versus actual meetings. Open meeting law is very clear that once you take an action, that is subject to open meeting law, and that requires discussion, deliberation, and a vote. So you can say that open meeting law is violated. That is your legal opinion on the matter. There are several other legal opinions on the matter that say that that is not. That is point in fact. Lastly, the one instance that you did get letters several minutes in advance, yes, those were letters, not resolutions. Again, as per your own words, letters have a different standard, a lesser standard. And one of those letters, the one that you guys had the biggest objection with, was in response to an announcement made by the mayor that morning. Again, I know because I wrote that letter. It was written that morning. So yeah, it was kind of done a little bit on the fly, but again, violated nothing. And by the way, that letter, which I stepped through in entirety, 2/3 of it was taken from a resolution which was passed unanimously. So again, I will point to the hypocrisy. At every step where we take, yes, have we pushed things to the limit? Yes, that has been the nature of this year. That has been the nature of this administration. That has been the nature of this DOE, which I'm thankful the DOE administration is departing. Since we were given no leeway on any of those, I am unlikely to grant any leeway to anyone else. And it will push for a very stringent policy. And if that means that you don't get to send something out in a timely manner, that is the precedent you have set for yourself by questioning every tiny detail when you don't agree with something. You can disagree with all I want. There is much video to back it up. This has nothing to do with you. It has to do with actions that have been taken in a very difficult year, and you have given no quarter. I'm inclined to give none either, and follow any strict procedures that we come up with, which we seem to have fallen upon. Should we formalize it in a bylaw meeting? I'm all for that. But that is my opinion on the matter, and I think several of the council members who have worked very hard on these letters and resolutions will also agree.
Thank you, Kush. Ushma, you have your hand raised.
Thanks. I will make this short. I would like to propose that I will put myself forward for this. I'd love to work with somebody like Janie on putting together a set of recommendations for all of us to consider and follow. I see Janie put her thumbs up. Happy to do that because we're wasting a lot of time on this and people are starting to fling poo at each other. And this is just not what we should be doing. We got to be kinder and nicer to each other. All right. This is in the spirit of actually getting things done for the kids in our district and the families in our district. It is perfectly understandable that there might be some things that come up in the course of the coming years and months where there is a need for expediency and the need to send a letter within days and when we can't wait for a meeting. I propose that Janie and I tackle that in whatever it is that we put forward for the council. That's all.
Ushma, just to discuss the point you just made, we can call a special meeting and we can't vote on it. And you don't need 3 days notice, you need 2 days notice for that. And then you would need 24 hours notice for the letter to be in that discussion. So there is a mechanism in our bylaws for that circumstance if we need to rush out something. Now, in open meeting laws, with the 24 hours notice, it's understood though that not every document can be provided within 24 hours. So if there's something like yesterday's D210 vote, I mean, if someone wanted to bring up something today, I think that would still fall under open meetings laws as permissible. So, or maybe we should ask Michelle what DOE legal's view on that is in that response. But I'd like to move. We've all had an opportunity. I'd like to move on to the next item.
I was just going to answer your question, Ben. In regards to public documents that already exist, it's okay to bring up.
All right. Liaison, the capital planning. I'm going to put in the, that's the next item on the agenda. This is a very important item because it's coming up real quick. January, I believe I have to check. I think it's January 14th is the date that it's due. I will be sending out spreadsheets, a spreadsheet to compile information before that, either in late December or early January. I just want to share, I'm going to put in the chat, there was I rather than discuss, have a lengthy discussion about how to contact your school and to get the capital needs from your liaison schools, I'm just going to put it in the chat, and you can take the link. It was a well done. Just 1 second. There was a well done meeting recently. That's it's part of Parent University. The link is in the chat. I advise it's 2 hours long, so it's a long meeting, but I recommend everyone to view it, and that will answer questions. A non-capital project. That said, I am going to well, first of all, besides contacting your principals, if you haven't contacted them this week, please make an appointment for when we're back in early January. There was one other item I wanted to push. Just 1 second, sorry. Oh yes, I wanted to bring to a vote. There's the capital SCA, the School Construction Authority, wants to have a capital plan December amendment meeting. This could actually be held in early January. I would, on a show of hands, I was hoping that we could have this meeting. It might be worthwhile to have. I can send you their plan, but it might be worthwhile to have this SAA because they've offered to come and discuss it with us. I just need you. I was just looking for a show of hands whether council members would be willing to do this as a special meeting, or I could do it as a committee meeting and then we can invite the SEA to attend. And if you have questions, you'll be able to see what their 5-year plan is. I think we're 2 years into their 5-year plan. So, and that could help you in your decisions on how to vote. And when we do have, not so much a vote where we're going to rank capital projects. Do council members prefer having a committee meeting? We don't have to have a quorum, or would you prefer having a special meeting where we do have a
Ask a question first.
Yes.
So in years past, sorry, Jennifer, do you have a point of clarification that might help?
Point of clarification, it's done at a calendar meeting. It's not done at a committee meeting.
That was
Right.
my recollection that I was going to bring up, was that we always had them come to a calendar meeting, and I think it would be extremely informative for all of us, and especially new members. And then I was going to ask you, how are we going to proceed? Because in years past, Shino set up that Google Doc for all of us to vote in, and I found that extremely helpful for all of us to be able to see what the requests were from other schools. So even if we might be in love with our own liaison schools and we saw that a different school had a bigger, more fundamental need, we could, put things into context.
Oh, well, I'll reuse that same spreadsheet. So I think, why break something that worked?
I do think that worked, and I would really, I think the rest of the council would probably find it extremely instructive, as do I every single time when the construction authority comes to the calendar meeting. That would be my personal preference.
All right. Well, I will inquire tomorrow morning with the school construction authority if they can attend our January 11th meeting. I think that would just be in time to do our final ranks that we will then submit. And if that can happen, then I'll see if we can do a special meeting or some other method that would suffice for our council. But I highly recommend during this break or before you meet with your liaison schools to watch to go to the link and attend that 2-hour recording of the capital planning meeting, because it really answers a lot of questions. Really, in order for you to rank properly, because we can only submit. We'll be able to submit our top 5 choices as a council, but we can rank other things as well. But it's really the top. We have to put our special. We have to take the time in an effort to choose 5 items in order to have something passed, and also we have to find out what has been submitted in the past as well, because that may or may not sway your rankings. But all right. You had a question again, follow up.
Yeah, sorry about that, Ben. Just for some of the new members, I do think, Ben, it would be really wise to send this, the link to any member who isn't here today, to remind them to do this. Because I recall I was liaison for some of the schools that now I'm not liaison for anymore. And I was just going to make the exact point you did, which was that there were certain things that were elevated in previous years that I'm not going to keep track of anymore. Like I was the liaison for PS 130. I believe Lily is now the liaison for that school. And so in order to be able to elevate their concerns. And the other point that I wanted to make was that the CEC this is one place where we do have some amount of influence, and so we should use it. But the secondary point there is that there are also a lot of city council members and borough presidents that also have a certain amount of sway as well as discretionary budget. So we can also think strategically about what we want to elevate as a CEC and where we can work with council members for certain schools that we are liaison for in order to elevate those with council members with whom we have relationships. I just wanted to mention that for anybody who hasn't gone through this before, that it's an important part of the process.
Right. That's absolutely all correct. And I just want to make the point that we also, in the past 2 years that I've been here, a number of council members did not submit anything at all. And that's unfortunate because it's the schools that you're being a liaison to that lose out. Not that necessarily the capital projects that we submit will be worked on. And some of those capital projects were that were chosen were later a reflection of what happened during the pandemic. Do not put down air conditioned units. There's money set aside for that, but there's other things that you can look into. So that's why watching the 2-hour presentation will be helpful. Yes, Kush, you have your hand raised. You're muted.
One, thank you, Ben and Ishma, for that and your experience. Two questions and one request. Just so I'm clear, so we go through that planning process on that same day, and then we have to submit our rankings, or we have some additional time after that?
I'm going to submit a spreadsheet, and that people can fill as you speak with your liaison schools. So they're going to give you, let's say, they're going to come back with you with some ideas. Like each school will give you like 3 capital ideas of or suggestions of what they need improved in their school. And you're going to then, based upon what you've seen in your schools, you're going to rank them. And other council members are going to be doing that at the same time. And then once we've compiled all that, we'll have like a greater ranking of
Right, but thank you for the extra detail. But just so I understand timeline, we should watch the video over the break. We should have met with all our schools before the 11th meeting, and we're going to have to do all this live on the meeting on the 11th.
No. We'll have like a day or two to after that meeting.
After that, to adjust things, but a lot of it is expected to be done live so that public can comment and whatever. And
no, the public doesn't comment. No. It's just based upon. Now, we didn't do much. We didn't have much back and forth in the previous council, so I don't know if that's a good example or not. But if you see there's a need at another school that seems really important, I think you should speak with that liaison, or that liaison who sees a really big need should then speak to other council members. And we should have really a working business meeting or some kind of meeting to discuss this. I think that would be a good idea after we meet with the SCA and they present.
Would it be helpful if I quickly showed the spreadsheet from last year so that people could see what we're talking about, Ben? Okay, yeah, sure. And unless you have access from the one 2 years ago, I can try to grab that one as well, or 2 or 3 years.
Can I just one more quick comment while you do that? I think that will be helpful. No, you can pull it up. I don't need to be seen. The other request is for this meeting and kind of for all meetings, can we just limit presentations from the DOE to 1? Because that one time, love Kelly, but that one time we had 2 people from 2 different presentations from DOE. We lost so many parents that just tuned out and dropped out of the call. We were watching the numbers drop. And if we could please limit DOE presentations to just 1 at any calendar meeting, that'd be helpful. And even if, I don't know how we could phrase this nicely, but even if Kelly's presentation could be shorter to accommodate this probably seemingly time-consuming process, that would also be helpful.
I understand. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of feedback from people that our meetings are as long as PEPT. Yeah. I will be mindful of that, and I will ask that our presenters be mindful of that, and I'll try to limit it. Sure.
Go ahead.
Happy to share that information as well.
Yes, Lupe.
I watched the capital improvement webinar, and I believe there was a time date. Is it possible that you send the spreadsheet even over the break for those of us that have already met with our schools, and we could start typing in now? And I do recall them saying, I felt like they were saying by the end of the year we should have had this spreadsheet done. Do we know the exact date, Jennifer, of when we need to submit these by?
You're muted, Jennifer.
I know. I don't have that date. Ben, do you?
I believe it's January 14th.
Right. So, okay. So what I was thinking is by the 11th, we should have already a list. That spreadsheet should be done by the time we're hearing from the construction site. And that way we're able to kind of rank our top 5 in that meeting. Is that the goal?
Yeah. The goal is to individual council members have their own rankings for their liaison schools. then after that meeting, you'll have the necessary information to rank everyone else's, because you get a chance to then rank everybody else's needs.
So I think this is a perfect segue for me to show what we've
Please.
done before, which is that, if you are the liaison for 198 and 77, they put in for an auditorium upgrade and a bathroom upgrade, classroom door replacement, floor tile replacement. And then PS 130 put in their items. I was liaison for that school, so that was what I put in. PS 42 had theirs, etc. So you're able to see what all of the different requests are, and many have a description. And then each of us was given our own column to be able to rank, 1 being high priority, 2 being medium priority. So as you see, some of the council members did not rank, and there are a very long list. So there's 63 on here. So in order for Ben, who's going to come up with the consensus then for us, to be able to elevate that which the CEC thinks is most important, we all need to see this in advance. We need to hear from the school's construction authority, and then we all need to be able to go in there so that Ben can look at from a numerical perspective, giving us plenty of time, and everyone will have access to that sheet. Does that make sense? And that was a system that worked extremely well in the past. And so so I, in particular, have not been on top of things like Lupe, and I have not reached out to my liaison schools to find these things out. So what I would do, especially now knowing that we're going to use this kind of a system, is I will write to them all and say, can you tell me what is it that you want in 3 words? What is the description? And that's it, to be able to show them that kind of a template so that we can all submit that to Ben in advance. And then we would all have access to it over time. We would hear from the SCA, and then we would be able to vote. Ben could look at everything, give us a timeline, and then he'd be able to elevate the things that we as a council thought were most important. If your own pet project at your own liaison school did not make it into that top rank list, then you can start to lobby the council person for your school where that school is.
Yeah. And some like city council members or state assembly members or state senators, they do have money set aside for capital improvements too. So, it doesn't end with us, and it doesn't necessarily what we pass will be okay with the school construction authority either. So they have the final say. So, but we have to be advocates for our liaison schools. Yes, Robin? You're muted.
Sorry. I wanted to give the example at PS 33. We, I'm not sure who the liaison was the last couple of years, but prior to you, Ben, but we had been desperately wanting and needing a new playground, and we worked with Corey Johnson and Eric Botcher at the time, and were able to get a new playground. We also asked for money to work on the air conditioning in the auditorium, and we were able to procure that and to work with a school construction authority to do both projects. And then the pandemic hit, but we had planned for some more necessary improvements, which I'll be entering into the chart. Thanks.
Chen, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, sorry, I'm late to join. I have as to the point about the city council and also the borough president funds. How can we better coordinate that? Because I've worked on the participatory budgeting process when I was part of the PTA executive board to solicit our school requirements for capital budgeting, and then put it on the list for the votes and so forth. And working with, I've met with Corey Johnson and Eric Bosher, excuse me. So like, what's the best way? Because we have, is it our bucket of money that goes into the SCA? Is it go to the, maybe not, I guess our list of requests that go independently to SCA? How does it line up in the queue and prioritization when, in conjunction with the city council, the participatory budgeting, and also money from the borough president? And mind you, assembly members and state senators also can contribute. So I'd like to see how we can help prioritize and strategically prioritize along with the other, sources of funds.
I can't answer the logarithm that they use to decide all this. The webinar might explain a little bit about it. And when we have the school construction authority here, maybe they can describe a little bit more of the process of how they decide. But you know, it's a good question, and maybe we have to also invite in the future, you know, elected leaders to ask them to coordinate with us. So,
and I have also a follow-up question on that. Is like one of the needs like that's identified at Clinton is that for their sports teams, they have to travel a long way to get access to like fields for their sports programs, and they're really constrained in the number of programs they can have because of that. And next to them is like Union Square Park, which is really, there's a kiddie park, but there's a lot of concrete in that park. And you know, the nearby schools and nearby parks are kind of far away. Like, how can we coordinate with like the parks department even to advocate for, you know, conversion or, you know, more park space or conversions of space for turf fields and so forth? Like, you know, can we like look into that as well?
Jennifer, do you have an idea for that, or?
That would have to be, somebody would have to reach out to the Parks Department, and I'd probably have the PTA do it to see how they could work that out.
It'd be worthwhile, Chen, if you want to invite them to a council meeting from the Parks Department, and you know, we could or discuss this as well.
I'm not sure the Parks Department is going to come to a council meeting. I think it's probably better to do it, especially during COVID. Do it
over Zoom
separately and reach out. I don't mean physically come, but it's better to reach out to them on the local level first, and then take it to the CEC if need be. I mean, those deals have worked out many times between schools and parks.
Say that again, sorry.
I would have the PTA reach out to the Parks Department. Well, first I would talk to the principal. After I talk to the principal, then I would have somebody from the PA or PTA reach out to Parks and see what can be done.
Okay, I'll follow that track, because I think a lot of schools just have lack of you know, like field space and so forth. And if we can kind of coordinate together, and you know, because this could be strategically placed so that schools can share common spaces if they're more built or converted into, you know, fields.
Right. You could also reach out to the community board.
That's a good idea. All right. Unless there are any other questions, I'd like to move on to the next item, item 4 on the agenda, liaison updates. If anyone has a liaison update they want to share, this would be an opportunity. If not, we can move on to the next. Oh, okay, Robin, yes.
I'm not sure if this is a liaison update or if this comes with a committee update. Is this separate?
Well, we don't have a committee update, which would probably be under new business, because the committee updates are usually done during the calendar meetings. But
okay, this is I just wanted to share that we worked with Ushma at PS33. We have a committee that we put together to help serve students in temporary housing, and we created Amazon wish list, working with the school and the parent coordinator. And I'd love to share the list if any of you might want to share with liaison schools who might be interested in helping out. I don't know how that works, but I would like to put it in the chat. If any of you former 33 families want to help share it, that'd be great also. So I'm just going to put it in the chat. Whether or not you want to do anything with it, that's up to you. But I'm proud of our school for doing it and our committee. So
excellent. Can you also email it to the council too afterwards? So we, because I'll share it with my liaison.
And just so you know, we're working on adding more, and hopefully more specific items. But there are some pressing items there now that need to arrive soon to the school for the nurse for some of the students. So I'd like to get that that link up and share it. And Lupe, I also have shared it with many at 234. So thank you, but I will pass it on to everyone here.
Push, do you mind if I cut the line, because I want to talk to you about something that's directly relevant to that, which is that one of the other massive shelters in D2 has actually decided to has being told to be closed, and we had an Amazon wish list for it. So there's actually only one really big shelter in D2 that's operational right now. So many of these kids are being pushed to outer boroughs and are moving. So school-based lists like the one that Robin was just talking about at 33 are going to become more important than ever. However, the lists that we did put together so far, so we have one for Children's Rescue Fund, now 33, 51, and 111. And unfortunately, our timing was a little off. So some of the schools in our district, I'm delighted to see 234 is eager. We reached out to a couple of the schools in our district that are usually the most generous, and our timing was off because they already ran toy drives and coat drives and food drives and other things. And so I was actually planning, Robin, to do more of, and everyone else, a larger assault in terms of disseminating these lists into later January when people are ready to open their wallets again after the holiday season. So I promise I'm going to be here as an ally for sending these things around. But for right now, we've been kind of sitting on them. I did speak with the shelter director at Children's Rescue Fund, and she said happily right now, I think it's called like Sugar Plum. There's a different group that does like toys for tots, and they are fully helping right now. So that has at least been good from the toy perspective. I totally appreciate what you're saying, though, that the school nurse and then like winter weather gear and stuff is really important to buy right now. So to the extent anyone is listening to this, please do think about being generous in this fairly difficult season.
Sorry, Kush, I know you have your hand raised. Can I just say 30 seconds?
Go for it.
I would love to mention this at lab as well. And the numbers are smaller, but for some of the specifically, to be specific, so especially teenage girls, the need is pressing right now. So I encourage maybe everyone in the council to reach out to Liaison schools. Obviously, some schools have more than others, but it's definitely something that's needed out there.
Kush?
Yeah, I just want to give a quick update on PS 150. Some of you may have heard it at the meeting last night because it was actually voted on by PEP. PS 150 is being recited from, just for those who aren't aware, where it currently is in Tribeca on, I believe, Greenwich Street. I forget the exact, I know exactly where it is, but I forget the exact street. To actually quite a very busy area. I guess it's kind of right in the border of the financial district. The thing went fine. It was passed fine. There are several concerns that I just want council members here to be aware of. One, though it was mentioned in the meeting that the principal was going to be given access to the site, as of yet he hasn't been able to, and they don't feel like they've been moving along on that front at all, citing safety concerns. That's one. Number two, the school has raised several safety concerns regarding, I forget the exact term, but they would like public safety crossing guards as opposed to just regular crossing guards, and as well would request additional police presence in the area. And I would remind that the school is actually being placed to within 4 blocks of several other schools, including PS 276, a pre-K center, LMC, I'm missing one more, but anyway. And then lastly, they expressed several concerns because there's unanswered questions regarding sibling priority, which they feel is very important, as well as loss of priority to downtown residents, which, again, it's disheartening that DOE hasn't given us enrollment numbers, because that would probably help us analyze that quite a bit. But in previous years, that's been quite important, because though there are many schools in downtown, there are also many families, and traditionally more demand than there is capacity. So just nothing, no action to do at this moment, but just some a heads up on some issues we may see come across our way in the future.
Thank you, Kush, and thank you for attending the number of meetings that we had regarding the reciting there for PS 150.
No problem. Oh yeah, there was a joint hearing before that, which
Yeah.
so I didn't mention, which Kelly, Ben, and the principal Nico went to.
Yeah, and the traffic concerns is there are real. That's a real issue. And
Yeah, just so people are aware, it's being put on, I forget if it's actually Greenwich or Trinity. I think it's sandwiched between Greenwich and Trinity, right where they first initiate all the way downtown. This is like a block away from the Bull on Broadway. It is right next to a garage where I actually happen to park my car. It's right next to one of the exits from the Battery Tunnel. And it's where a whole bunch of public transportation buses park, wait, and transit. So yeah, I don't love that they picked that area, but I think they are forced to just make do with this because they are being kicked out of their current location. And at this point, they just want to make sure they have a home. There was also another thing that's relevant for us to think about in the future. They also got a gymatorium instead of original requests and promises for a gymnasium and an auditorium. I've heard this complaint before, even listening to CEC meetings, and not just our CEC. Something that happens unfortunately a lot, and in general, schools never feel like they're well served by having a gymatorium as opposed to a separate gymnasium and auditorium. Something to keep in mind for a future.
thank you again, Kush. I just want to point out there was since we're on this topic, there's a proposed co-location extension for City Knoll. And I think, Chen, that you're the liaison for that. The date was canceled. It was supposed to be Thursday, January 13th. When we find out more, I'll forward it to the council. Okay. Chen, you have your hand raised? Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak a little bit about City Knoll and in general for the liaison schools. I can't say that I reached out to them right in July or in September, but I reached out to them, but they haven't really responded. I mean, I know I'm in the SLT of PS 111 and also at Clinton, so I've been in contact with their school and the PTA administration. But I did manage to meet with City Knoll last Thursday, the Friday before they closed. They actually closed the school. They reported 19 cases, which I heard has grown to like 30 something. So they closed, not PS 111, even though we're in the same building. In terms of the extension of the co-location, I think both schools, the sentiment is that's been working really well, especially with families who have kids in both schools. That's continuation. One of the top things on City Knoll's wish list is to have a permanent home. This co-location extension is really for 2 years, but they really want to have a permanent home. When they started the school a few years ago, they never had a proper home. They've been bounced around several times already, I think third time probably. So that's their number one wish. And I think I was trying to, I don't know if we had a copy of the capital plan from the capital planning, the district planning document. Do we have that? I forget if we got a copy of that or a link to that.
I believe it was emailed.
It was given out, right? I'll look through that. But it's really for, like the head count, the student population estimates are moderate for the next few years. So the building should be able to handle it, but they just want some certainty. And also that building for capital planning purposes, there's a leaky roof right now. They've been working on it and it's been delayed. So I'm trying to get, the co-location extension to kind of include that with that kind of some kind of prioritization to finish it as a, condition of approval, whatever, how we want to take it. But I think from a prioritization, I think we should consider the leaking roof and try to speed that up because it's going to take years and years. And I don't know how quickly SCA can do it if they're working on it as high priority. But that's just an update from where things are right now with City Knoll. The other schools, they haven't responded. I think they're really dealing with the Omicron and so forth. I got a letter from I think it was the East, I forgot the name of the school, but Principal McAvoy said they're busy with like the Omicron and the pandemic issues. So we're gonna try to meet in late January. That's my update.
Great, thank you very much, Chen. Okay, I'm just going to the next item here. A number of council members attended the U of T dinner. If there are any council members that want to say a few words about that, to let the other council members who weren't able to attend, I think that now is the time would be great to speak about it.
Say quick, you know what? There's a lot of background noise. I'll let Kush talk.
So I wasn't ready. I was getting dinner myself. Anyway, let's see. Daniela went, officially representing our council. And Robin and I decided to join as well. I know Lupe had signed up for it. I thought Robin Broshi had signed up as well, but I didn't see her there when we were there. I don't know. It was eye-opening to me. I just don't know what don't really know what goes on at U of T, but others may have more experience. A lot of it was centered around gathering support for smaller class sizes, which in theory I'm all for. To me, there's still open questions on budget. Again, I don't want to get into a debate on it, but to me, it's not as cut and dry as was laid out. But others might have a different opinion.
Yeah, I was going to say, Kush, what I was going to say earlier is that Kush asked a question about class size reducing because of the pandemic, and there was kind of a pushback. Many people said that District 2 really didn't feel that. Question was booed. So I don't really know what that was about, but I also know that there was a lot of anxiety, I guess, about the new administration coming in. I guess that's the best word. People felt uneasy about what would happen and who would be remaining on the DOE and what would happen to the union and what the causes might be going forward. But yes, the main point of the event was smaller class size. I think it was more teachers, smaller class, a push for remote options for teachers. I think higher pay was also being requested.
One add-on, sorry to interrupt Lupe, but just one quick fact. I think what was said, though I did press the issue on how much class sizes had been reduced by their estimates, since we hadn't been getting official numbers from the DOE, their estimate was, I think this is it was a citywide estimate, that class sizes had gone down by 10% on average, but there was tremendous variability between the different classrooms by school and by district.
Lupe? Sorry. Lupe, yes?
Yes, so I had been invited actually by the Manhattan U of T rep, as I've been heavily involved for the past year and a half with Class Size Matters. That is what the dinner, the U of T CEC meet and greet was centralized around the Class Size Matter bill. And the purpose was to, again, try to get Corey Johnson to put the bill or put the vote to the agenda, which we all know did not happen. I think the concern for the new administration was not who is coming in, but it was a matter of if that bill did not get added to that agenda that week or the following week, it was going to, we'd have to start from scratch. Now, there is a bill that has already currently been in drafting for the state that we could, obviously, we're going to be pushing forward come the new year. And just to kind of give more description on what was in the original bill was that we were literally asking for equity as far as city schools being 30% over the rest of the state. So we were really asking, we just want equity in the amount of class sizes when you compare New York City to the rest of the state. The funding that was available and is available and is recurrent within the state, in addition to the federal funding that is available, would have actually been able to reduce the class sizes with 80% of the classes in New York City as is, and the 5-year plan to phase in the remainder 20%. The funding was there as well for the 11,000 teachers that they were looking to hire. But we will be revisiting this in the new year. And hopefully by our February calendar meeting, I will be presenting what Class Size Matter will be presenting in regards to the state bill.
Daniela?
Yeah, so I also attended. Ben asked me to represent District 2. And I think for me, it was also very eye-opening. I think a couple of things. It was really centered on small class sizes. And they mentioned that they actually are going to be lobbying the assembly to tie this to mayoral control, which I think we should all be aware of that. Also, as I mentioned in our last meeting, there was a lot of conversation about like the power of the CCs in terms of setting the narrative, because the teacher union is seeing it, and as it is, it's an interest group now, and so we are really seeing as the representative of families. And I was very concerned of how the discussion class size was put, because I think given that we still don't have enrollment numbers for New York City, I have foiled the district to get the enrollment numbers for our district was denied. Several CCs have foiled. They said that only in spring we're going to have actual enrollment numbers, even though they had to report. This should state on the BEDS report on October 31st. So it's really concerning how the district cannot provide enrollment numbers until we know how many kids we have in our district, and until I think the new administration comes, and every new mayor comes, opens the budget, like there are some surprises there, and New York, it's not in a really great financial situation. We're still losing a lot of our tax base, so many people move out of the city, so many businesses move out of the city. And so I think until we have a much better idea of the financial situation of the city and the enrollment situation of the district, which again, GOE has been hiding now for, since September, I don't feel comfortable, like I cannot have an opinion on class size until we have these two factors. So we really can have an informed conversation and think about what can be done in terms of that. I also think that the way in the dinner that the researcher class size was shown, I think it is very deceiving, because they said that class size is the one thing, is the main thing, and there are a lot of experts who disagree with that class size are very important if you dramatically reduce, like less than 10 children per teacher. But I will take for my kid a really great teacher with a higher class size than a not effective teacher with a smaller class size any time of the day. And so I really think that the discussion of class size without like effective teaching, I think it's very deceiving, and it's not putting our children's interests in first place.
Thank you, Daniela. And thank you also for representing D2. And I did reach out to Robbie Robinson. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it, and I think we're going to set up a time where he can address the council. But thank you again, because these are all relevant points, and in 2025, we don't know what the budget's going to be like, so it's a very serious concern. So, all right, so we'll move on to the next agenda item. Requests for council correspondence and or public notices. We have 2 letters that were provided to the council. One test to stay letter, and which was is available on our website. I'll add the links in our chat, and then the second letter will be welcome to the incoming Chancellor David Banks. Daniela, do you want to discuss the test to stay letter, and I'll add the link.
Yes. We actually sent a letter, 9 of us sent a letter 2 months ago, urging the mayor to implement test to stay. So several districts and several states across the country have already done that. And it's just a way to minimize missing days for children and for staff in schools. And so I'm very excited that Governor Hochul finally now, after 2 months, has released guidance so all districts across New York State can implement this. So I really want to urge the new administration to immediately implement this. And I think this is so important for 2 things. I mean, one, there is now some data about learning loss. I think every day in school counts and children need to be in school. We know that online learning is absolutely not comparable to in terms of what children can learn when they are in school. And this would really help children who have had a close contact, but then can get a negative test, can go back to school. But this is also particularly relevant in times like this, where schools are very short staffed, because so many staff now are having to quarantine because had close contact. And sometimes even you have principals like covering and having to teach. And so that the test to stay will really help in trying to minimize the quarantine time. And as soon as somebody has a negative test, they are back in school buildings. So that's the letter, just urging the administration to follow now the state guidance and to join several other states and districts across the country who have implemented this policy.
Are there any council members who have questions for Daniela in regards to the letter? If not, I will make a motion to approve the letter.
Second.
All right, seconded. Janie, could you call a vote on the motion to approve the letter?
Is there a vote, or do we just ask to add our names? And if we get to 6, then it gets sent out.
Those are 2 separate items. You can have a motion to approve and then add, I think we just need 6 members to approve. And you could have, let's say 11 members approved it, but only 6 want to add their names. Those are 2 different items. So I think first we have to approve it, and then we can choose who wants to add it.
Can I add on one thing? I think, though unusual, it has happened. I think there was a case where, for example, was it Lily did approve but did not want her name attached.
Yeah.
So
that's correct. Janie, if
Yes, okay, so calling a motion to approve the letter. Robin is absent. Kush?
he's got his thumbs
Yes, okay. Daniela?
Yes.
Lupe?
No.
Okay. Robin Kelleher?
Yes.
Chen Kwok?
Yes.
Benjamin Morton?
yes.
Ushma Neal?
Yes.
Limpong Sim, yes. Leonard Silverman is absent. Lily is absent. Gabriella?
Yes.
Okay, the motion is approved.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Janie. Are there any council members who are not listed on the letter that would like to be listed on the letter? Right. If someone decides to, and Kush, okay, all right. So I'll add both of you, and then I'll provide you with the final version of it, Daniela, tomorrow.
sorry, Danielle, I couldn't read it earlier.
It's okay. Thank you.
Thank you. So it's been approved. The next letter is welcoming Chancellor David Banks. He's incoming chancellor. He has made he's been in the press a lot. He's made a lot of quotes and sharing his views on teaching to the whole child. And it's basically like the letter that we wrote to our mayor-elect, Eric Adams, and just welcoming him. I believe there was a council member who wanted to add to the letter after reading it?
Yeah, that was me. I unfortunately haven't had a chance to write the addition, but I would like. I had suggested, and I think Chen was in favor of this. We had discussed. Could we perhaps end it with a request that he? I think we've had this wording in another thing. CEC is one of the top 5 largest districts in the in New York City, and has passed these several resolutions as you referenced in the letter. Would like to request that you come speak to us, blah blah blah, on this topic, if permitted in your schedule. I think that would be a nice addition. I would recommend it be added.
Is it something you could just quickly write up in the chat, and then we can make a motion to edit the letter?
Can we continue on the agenda, and I will
Okay.
do that, and we can vote on
And
it.
come
So
back
I guess I'm making a motion to add an agenda item, I guess, or correct, or move an agenda item.
And return to this. Is that
Yes.
allowed, Jennifer, if we vote on that? Just a raise of hands, and then we come back to this item?
You could come back to it. You don't even need to vote. You don't have to vote on that. You're not moving the item. You're just coming back to it.
Okay, all right. Since we did do 12 already on the agenda, and we'll just come back to that unless someone has an issue with that. Are there any requests for public notices for your committees so that I can send out? Yes, Wishma.
We're going to have a Students in Temporary Housing Committee. Let me look at my calendar really quickly. On the day after our next CEC meeting. So that would be January 12th.
Okay. Can you send me the details, and then I'll send it out per the dates you want me to send out the
Sure.
blast?
Sure.
Thank you.
I think I checked with you before that we didn't have anything else scheduled that evening, but I will remind you and send an agenda, which will not be long, but yeah.
Okay, great.
What time
January-
is the meeting, Ushma? Sorry, on January 12th, what time?
I tend to do those at 7 p.m.
And Ushma, is that open? That's open meeting, obviously. So
Yeah, it's an open committee meeting, and I will send out that out to all of our usual suspects who have registered in the past for the meeting, in addition to what Ben sends out.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Chen, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, sorry, I just want to give, if you have time, as we're discussing the letter to Chancellor, appointed Chancellor.
David Banks, yeah.
Thanks, yeah. Just from the meeting that I joined today with the Education Transition Committee. I just want to say, I mean, he's got like 4 pillars. One is really improve, reuse, or and recognize and scale really successful education policies or programs. And one other pillar that's strong for him is engaging parents and families. And he really wants to change that to instead of having engagement, like a false kind of engagement, I guess. I'm not putting words in his mouth, but he did say that, oh, these people are put some plan together in a room, and then release it and say we've engaged parents with only like a few families. He's committed to really engage beforehand, and not that everybody will agree, but that's a pledge he's made as part of his. He joined the meeting today, and he said that personally. So I think I'm very heartened by that, and I spoke up, and when we went around the room, and we went to breakout rooms to I'm not talking directly, but we went to breakout rooms to give suggestions on how we can enhance the family and parent engagement. And I said, lift up the voices of the CECs and the citywide councils, and also listen to diverse voices, and not just to only voices who are linked ideologically with the administration, which has happened in the past several years. And so the takeaway from that, among other ideas, is really to listen to diverse voices and really listen to engage families and the representatives of the families as directly elected now from the city councils and citywide councils and education councils. There's also a discussion on how to reimagine the learning experience, and there's a lot of suggestions from other people, including partnerships with business and CBOs, so that, especially with business, so that they know they can be like give guidance and mentorship to students in terms of what kind of skills, what kind of things are required for great careers. And and the other part is my suggestion was that we should center our attention, for our education, around students' needs, and put, like on a white paper, just white, clean sheet of paper. What does the student need? Is it, learning at where they are, teaching to where they are, whether they're special education, general ed, or advanced learners, whether it's they need free after school to have academic support, or sports, or arts and music, or whether it's, they need weekend help or summer school, and work, and then throw the resources around that and the personnel around that, and not necessary to what adult constraints have been placed on that learning need, or the learning needs. So whether we need to renegotiate with the unions for new contract terms that reflect those needs, so be it. Whatever it is, but centered on the student needs. And those are the things I mentioned in that meeting. So just some color.
Thank you very much, Chen, for sharing that. I'm looking forward to these further discussions that David Banks, the incoming chancellor, is bringing up. If you ever want to be encouraged, enthused by students, what he does with his Eagle Academy, reading the Invictus poem, I highly suggest you searching it on YouTube and listening to students, because they read this every day and it's very inspiring. Okay, so are there any resolutions or letters in development that council members may be seeking out sponsors? Because this is an item that we didn't do in the past term, and given everything that I've read from Michelle Chang, I think it's a useful opportunity during our business meetings to discuss and bring up. Chen, you have your hand raised, or is that from before? Chen? Okay, you went down. All right,
From
Lupe.
before.
Yeah, yes, Chen. Not from before. Okay, Lupe, yes.
I actually saw Ushma put her hand up first. So do you want to go first?
That's okay. I bet we're going to say the same thing, which is that we're going to resurrect so please know that we've actually asked both Robin Kelleher and Len Silverman to take a look at the resolution that we put on before, and we will be bringing that one back up again.
Yes.
Which resolution?
What was it, 186?
186.
Oh, okay.
186. So that will be up again. And I think at present, based on the holidays, I had thought about another policy-based one related to students in temporary housing. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm putting my head together with Iris Gersten, the Regional Director for Students in Temporary Housing for D2 and D3, and asking if we can have a Bridge the Gap social worker or somebody else come to that meeting on the 12th to be better informed before we put together some resolutions related to students in temporary housing. So I don't think for January, but for any of you that want to come to those meetings and hear from the people who are actually boots on the ground, I think that will be informative on the 12th. And then hopefully we'll be able to get something together for the February meeting.
And there was a possibility of one other one that I have heard from many teachers, both from the UFT and the Moore caucus of the UFT, as well as many parents regarding coming back from the holidays. I've gotten overwhelming concerns regarding holiday travel and COVID cases on the rise. And many parents are really seeking some sort of mitigation to the return of school. And I know even principals that I liaison for, and I say principals because it's more than one, just our school, would not, their community would not mind a negative PCR test required to come back in to the school building. So that, you know, it's something that they've asked. I told them that by the time we have our next calendar meeting, as far as resolution was concerned, was not possible, but it did kind of coincide with the letter option, which does not seem like it's feasible at this time. But if you guys are interested, and if it is something that that enough people are in agreement with, then it's something that we could work on. So thank you for adding this to the agenda, actually, Ben. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Robin? Yeah.
Lupe, are you talking about so testing to go back in addition to, and then also, are you suggesting like a remote school in January? Remote option?
I mean, me personally, I think that option should have been available in the fall, but no, I didn't mention anything about remote. I just said of the concern. That is also a concern of parents. Like Chin said, a lot of schools in our district principals have already made that decision due to the fact that the situation room is extremely overwhelmed, and even families that are getting testing done outside of schools are still waiting. In fact, our principal told me that all of our positive cases have come outside, meaning self-reported. And there's not enough students even being tested at this point. So the resolution, if we were to bring a resolution for the calendar that would be feasible, would be an increase in testing. That has been a huge consensus from parents, families, and teachers and principals, administration in our district, that we would like to increase the testing, especially because vaccinated children are no longer on the list. I know, Ushma, you did mention something at our calendar meeting that schools and principals should not have this information if we're not uploading it into the system. However, they do. My principal is very honest, and she said, listen, if your child has received one dose, just one, they have already been taken off the list. So they are no longer being tested. And that is a huge concern because
at our school, my children were being tested after one dose, but it wasn't until I submitted their vaccination card that they stopped being tested. I actually think my youngest was tested a week afterward, assuming that his immunity was enough. I do agree there should be more testing, but I don't see how a remote option.
I didn't mention anything about remote option in the
Okay, I'm just
yeah,
my 2 cents. I'm responding to you, so I'm saying, and I think while I'd love for students to test to go back, I don't know how you can enforce that. I think that might become political, but sure. But yeah, that's just what I'm foreseeing becoming an obstacle.
I didn't get to finish, but I was going to say that the logistics behind it is difficult. I mean, look, like I said, the people that are testing, the lines, it's taking forever for people to get the test results back. So to require students to take a test before the 3rd is going to be an uphill battle, and that we are aware of. But I will say that there's overwhelming concern and an ask from families for that.
You're up.
I'm sorry, me?
Yeah, you have your hand raised.
Oh, yes. So what about, I just threw this out as an idea because I think this, the president and officials have said they're trying to get people at home test kits. Maybe there would be feasibility that families could do the, test kit at home. The question is then, does it become a challenge because what if they do it wrong and if it's false positive? And it's also the rapid ones, they're not as accurate as the PCR, but would that be like maybe a compromise? Because I think requiring everyone to get a negative PCR, it's like right now you can't even, you have to spend hours in the line. So I don't foresee that changing, but would it be acceptable if people had access to the at-home kits, that they would have to do the at-home kits? And then the question is, who do you present it to? Is there like a central place you present it to say, hey, it's negative, I get to go back? But I just throw it out there because that's, they say we have a couple at home. They're pretty easy to do. The downside is, there are false positives. Like I've gotten a positive and then I got a PCR test and it was a negative. But, maybe that could be a potential compromise.
Well, if you want to maybe discuss, Janie, with Lupe offline, and then if there's something,
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
You can come up with a resolution together.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think it all hinges on the, is what they're saying and advertising going to be reality? Because they're saying everybody's going to get these kits, and they say this is like, it feels like it's going to be a next week thing. If it's going to be a 3 months from now thing, there's really no point of us writing a resolution to say do all this stuff, and parents and teachers, and they don't have stuff to do with. So to be continued.
And just to be clear, I don't think we have enough time. We wouldn't be able to do a resolution because our next meeting is well after the kids are already back to school. But Janie, if you're interested in working on a letter, that's something that can be done prior to going back.
Mm-hmm.
And then the resolution can maybe focus on increasing testing moving forward on a weekly basis.
Cool.
Daniela, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I was going to point that school is back January 3rd. So, so it's not possible for us to have a resolution on that because our next meeting is January 12th. I don't believe it's feasible for the DOE to now be able to send a home test kit to every single family before January 3rd for somebody to do that. And some schools actually there was somebody was in the media today that a school in District 3 actually decided to require a test. And I mean, it costs $12. Some families were very upset, because it is a cost, and then you have to go there and some people are living their lives, and it's very hard to then just be able to very quickly do that. And this is not even legal because it's not the policy of DOE. Like this principle, my understanding, is decided by him or herself. I don't know. And so, and it was quickly already sent a letter apologizing to the families and reversing the policy. And so I don't understand how this is feasible to do anything for January 3rd, given that, we are in 10 days back in school.
I just want to remind council members, in an emergency time, we do have a special meetings option if someone believes there is a need. Unfortunately, though, you do have to get a quorum. Yes, Sushma?
Just saying with regard to that, I think we need to follow the science, and everything is going to change day by day, and it's going to be completely different a week from now. Robin and I were going back and forth. I've got 2 kids that are quarantining right now. A third one I'm keeping home from school. I mean, and the news you get from, so I've got kids at 3 different schools. Is so completely different in terms of the number of parents keeping their kids homes and what people are pushing for. So thank you for suggesting that, Ben, and we all very well might want to get ourselves together a week from now when things are different and we have different data.
Attendance, by the way, is just collapsing everywhere. It's scary. On a lighter note, our next announcement, I'm hoping, Oshma, you can discuss this. It's from Gail Brewer's office.
Happy to. Lupe and I were delighted to have a last meeting with all of the VP appointees from Manhattan with Gail Brewer and Jean-Louis. a couple of weeks back. So Gail is transitioning out and Mark Levine is coming on board, but all of the BP appointees are staying on board. And I know that sometimes we are, it's been recognized we weren't elected, but there are really good things about being a BP appointee. I did just want to underscore that. We get some insights into citywide processes. We hear about things that are happening in other districts, and in D5, there are students dying of violence. So we think our problems are bad, and then we hear about some of the things that are happening in other districts and the things that people are bringing up. So it has been really terrific to be part of that crowd and to learn from our fellow BP appointees. But the thing that we put on the agenda while we were in the meeting, Lupe and I emailed Ben and mentioned that they are giving us a nice holiday present. They invested in meeting owls for community boards. And so then they decided that those worked so well that they were going to get them for each of the 6 CEC districts in Manhattan. So these are like $1,100 a piece. And so it's a spinning camera and microphone and speaker, such that if and when we ever do convene in person again, and apparently the setup is also quite easy. You can get 2 of them that work together, connected to the same laptop, that will hopefully make communication for a virtual audience much, much better. So we won't have to have Craig Slutskin, who's doing such an amazing job, or at least did such an amazing job at our last meeting, running back and forth, positioning cameras and microphones and things. And shout out again to Craig for doing that enormous amount of work. But hopefully soon, by the end of the month, Sean is going to reach out to Lupe and I to go and pick up at least this one meeting owl, so we can talk in the future, if and when we do all get together in person, about using some of the budget to buy a second one, because I doubt for 11 of us in person that one meeting owl would work. And they usually tend to work best when people are sitting in like a U or an O. So since we tend to sit in a row, we might need to invest in getting another one, but it would be a terrific tool for us to be able to keep engagement with parents up while we are in person at some point in the new year.
I put a couple of links that has some slides and a video to show you what the owl is. And I definitely agree with Ushma that should we go back to in-person, possibility of hybrid would be a lot more feasible, and it'd be a great investment to purchase a second one.
I should mention that Chen Kwok actually looked into this. Oh, you have your hand raised. So yeah, please speak, Chen. You're muted.
Sure, thanks. Yes, that's great. That's great. We got that gift. It's awesome. I've been, in contact with the regional salesman. Well, they're salesmen. There's kind of a small startup with PE investment. I think they're not public yet. I think, yeah. So it's a great product, and they can extend it with a second one to extend the size of the room. I think it's a great thing because you can see everyone around the room with their 360 camera. And it has a 360 microphone system. The challenge is that it will be very great. It's great for remote participation so that they can see us around the table and we can hear them through the built-in speaker. The challenge would be if we're in a public space with live audience integrating with that. So that's a great step. I think we will still need to figure that second step out, where how do we get the live audience integrated, and we can think of the second device to extend the room size as the microphone and speaker for the publics. But given like our experience of the auditoriums we've been in, it may or may not be enough still. But I think it's a great thing to get for free, and we can just add one. We have it in the budget that we accounted for originally, so that'll be great. So thank you, Ushma.
Don't thank us. Thank Gail Brewer.
Thank you, Gail Brewer.
Actually, maybe we should send her a letter. Ushma, if you have time, maybe if you put something together, we'll we
Lupe
can
and I
vote on
can
it
put our
next
heads,
month.
yeah,
Yeah.
Lupe and I can put our heads together to thank her for all she's done, because her footprint in the world of education is quite large as well. So
And she's not leaving. She's in the city council. So.
exactly,
That's right.
exactly. So it will be good to keep that friendship going.
Thank you, Ushma, for recognizing me. I appreciate that.
Okay. Unfortunately, Superintendent Kelly is not here today, because I was hoping he could do the announcement. And I also had invited our new Deputy Superintendent, Reginald Higgins, to join us. And he can't make it today, but he'll be joining us at I believe at our calendar meeting, next meeting. So, but we have a new Deputy Superintendent, and we all look forward to working with him. He's, or at least I do, I assume you all do. He is a former principal from PS 125. I believe everyone was sent a email from both our superintendent and our new deputy superintendent. But and I look forward to working with him in the new year. Chen, you have your hand raised.
Sorry, that's one before.
Okay, sorry. All right, so that was the last agenda item. I want to go back to the second letter. Kush, were you able? I haven't checked the chat. If you're able to write.
I was. Let me give you a moment to share. In the meantime, sorry, a little out of order, but may I ask Ushma, at the borough president meeting, was Levine there? I assume
was
not.
not.
I was just curious if you had anything to say, but not that he was necessarily invited, but.
I don't believe he was.
If you, Ushma, if you want to invite him to our future council meeting, the new borough president, I think would be a great chance to.
So I actually think Lupe's the one who has
already did that.
cultivated the relationship with him. I've been serving for the last year on the Gale's Manhattan Vaccine Task Force, because he is quite fixated on COVID at present. But Lupe's the one who's actually reached out, and I'm relying on her to get us all together.
Absolutely. We have done that, and he's looked at our schedule, and he's going to get back to me to see when he can come.
Great, thank you.
You know, you can ask me sometimes, Ben. I am also a VP rep. Thank you.
There was no slight intended. Just have known Ushma now for 2.5 years.
And I believe it was me that asked the question, and I asked it generally. In any case, so I see Chen is making some slight adjustments. So anyway, my suggestion, as Chen edits, is this paragraph. As one of the largest districts in New York City, but you guys can hear me, right?
Yes.
As one of the largest districts in New York City by number of students and geographic size, we would also like to invite you to meet with CECD2 at one of our scheduled meetings or at a time of your convenience. CED2 has been a leader, CECD2, sorry, has been a leader in CECs in New York City in parent engagement and resolutions, which have been used as templates by other CECs.
You had a comma before which, after resolutions?
I'm going to blame that on Chen. We have a very large active parent and parent leader community. We cordially invite you to join our CEC meeting at your earliest convenience. I think we did that, Chen, already. I'm going to suggest the original one. We parent leader community.
Okay, rejected.
Engage with you.
I'm using a small screen. Sorry.
Which would love to engage with you in a meaningful way. So I'm going to reject.
Thank you for making those edits, Kush.
Can you make it a question? That's what I want to say. We cordially invite you, or say it that way. That was my point.
Would you be willing to meet with our? Yeah, fine.
We invite you. Just make it an invitation. That was what I was trying to say in the last line. Instead of we would engage you, like it's a concept, but we would invite you. Then that's a real invitation.
Or will you accept our invitation?
How about this? We invite you to meet with our very large active parent and parent leader community, which would love to engage with you in a meaningful way. Does that work? Robin, Chen, anyone?
You add a comma after community before which.
Yeah. Any other comments, concerns?
Well, you would then strike what I wrote, that's all, because I still see it right now on the screen.
It is struck on what I'm looking at, so you might be
Okay.
lagging.
You're inviting him twice.
Yeah, it says, yeah, that's what I mean, like it's inviting it twice, inviting Chancellor Banks twice.
You want to end with the invite, Chen?
Sure.
What if you say you accept our invitation as the last line? Or you accept our offer and keep the invite, that way you're seeing it twice. And it invites an answer. No pun intended.
I think I have to separate it. How's that?
I have in the open where you say as one of the largest districts, does this sound better just to say
District
you
2
know,
is one of the largest
yeah, so
districts?
we are one of the largest districts in New York City by number of students and geographic size, and would like to invite you to meet with CECD2. And so as opposed to we would also. So we are one of the largest districts in New York City by number of students and geographic size, and would like to invite you to meet with CECD2 at one of our scheduled meetings or a time that is convenient for you.
You don't even have to say by number of students and geographic size.
Yeah,
One of the
that's it.
largest districts. He knows what it means.
Yeah, less words is better.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
we are
less words is better.
So we are one of the largest districts in New York City and would like to invite you to meet with CECD2 at one of our scheduled meetings or a time that is convenient for you.
Yeah, and I was going to say.
When you put some urgency in it, say at your earliest convenience.
Yeah, yeah.
At your earliest convenience, make
Or
it early.
ASAP.
That's the most
ASAP.
polite way of saying ASAP, just at your earliest convenience.
Kush, could you also on the bottom, they would love to engage you? It should be we. Because we have to be consistent.
Well, we as representatives.
Okay.
I think he means
Isn't
the
that-
community, right? The community would like, oh,
But I think, yeah, we is all encompassing.
yeah, I agree.
That's fine. And parent engagement and resolutions. How's that?
I would change the last sentence to, we look forward to engaging with you in a meaningful way.
I like that.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's good.
Well, we look forward to your reply.
I think you want to keep engaging, Jen, just based on what you just said on your report.
Yeah,
From,
so it seems like it's gonna happen.
I actually added that for you. You mentioned, he specifically mentioned engaging with parents.
Just so everyone knows, we are scheduled this year to meet with the chancellor, but I think it would be great if we could meet with him earlier than later. There's so many important issues to discuss. But the chancellor.
You could also say we look forward to partnering with you.
So true.
I still like the engage, but I like the partnering too.
I'm going to chime in. I haven't been here. I apologize, but I wouldn't do engaging and partnering.
Okay, let's pick. I picked engaging because of what Chen had said based on his transition team report. But I don't care. I don't feel strongly enough about one or the other. Let's just pick one: engage or partnering. Chen, you decide, please.
I think partnering assumes engagement. So let's go for step 2, engagement.
Great.
Partnership.
Okay. I'm going to add Chen. Len, I don't know. I know we can do this a different way, but Len, would you like to be added on?
Or,
We haven't voted on this yet, so
yeah, we have to.
that is premature.
Okay. I think Chen is not because he helped
Yeah. We're going to have to
Right,
make a
yes.
motion to
add. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Fine. Okay.
So this, okay. I make a motion to add this last paragraph to the letter.
I second.
I second.
All right.
Okay, so we're motion to add second paragraph to letter.
To Chancellor David Banks.
Okay, Robin Bush is absent. Kush,
Yes.
Daniela,
Yes.
Lupe,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Kelleher,
Yes.
Chen Kwok. Chen, I assume it's yes.
Yes. Mhm.
Benjamin Morton,
Yes.
Ushma Neal,
Yes.
Lim Fong Sim, yes. Leonard Silverman,
Yes.
Lily is absent. Gabriella,
Yes.
okay. Motion is passed.
All right. Excellent.
Yay.
What was that? Oh, I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion to approve this letter to send to Chancellor David Banks.
You mean
Second.
to approve the letter as amended?
As amended, yes. Thank you, parliamentary.
Second.
Second. Third. Sorry, out of order.
Okay, we're voting. I'm sorry, we're voting on the motion to approve the letter as amended. Robin Bush is absent. Kush,
Yes.
Daniela,
Yes.
Lupe,
Yes.
Robin Kelleher,
Yes. Yes.
Chen Kwok,
Yes.
Benjamin Morton,
Yes.
Ushma Neal,
Yes.
Lim Fong Sim, yes. Leonard Silverman,
Yes.
Lily's absent. Gabriella,
Yes. Sorry.
okay. Motion is approved.
All right. Excellent. Is there any new business that anyone wants to bring up?
Before
Wait.
you do that, yeah, are we gonna decide on the
Oh, yes.
what's the letter or?
Yeah. Who wants to be added to this letter?
You can have me the letter.
Okay. Robin. Okay.
I think I'm already on there. Oh, was I not?
You were on. You got moved to the second page, but we'll fix that in.
Can you add, since you're in that file, can you just add their names?
I will do it.
Thank you so much, guys.
Chen, you wanted to be added, correct? I have Chen and Len to be added. Robin was already on.
Me too. My hands up. Janie.
Okay, sorry,
Fong
covered
Sim.
by the thing. Ushma, you were hand raised to be added. Lupe, I don't.
She's got her hand raised.
I'm sorry, I don't see everybody on here. So basically, everybody here wants to be
Yes.
added, correct? Are we allowed to reach out to? Is Robin Broche the only one not here?
And Lily.
Are we allowed to reach out to them after the fact?
And what
Jennifer
about
Greenblatt?
Gabriella? She's here.
I'm sorry, again, not on my main screen. Gabriella, would you like to be added?
Sure. Thank you.
Apologies, like I said, I don't know why it's switched.
Gabriella, did you want to be added on to the previous letter? Because we didn't ask you about that.
That's okay. Yeah. Thank you.
Ben, I came late, the previous letter, which,
Oh, my apologies. That's the test to stay letter that was passed, approved. And I'll put the link in there in our chat so you can review it before you decide.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'll text Robin Broshi right now, but Kush, would you mind forwarding me the latest version of that letter so that I can send it to her?
Okay. I'm just going to share it with you.
Thanks, Ben.
Okay.
You should have gotten it, Ushma. I don't have the additional people added, but I'll take care of that.
I'll reach out to Lily tomorrow to see if she wants to be added as well.
Just so we're clear, Jennifer Greenblatt, there is no big issues with this, correct? Adding people after the
I don't
fact.
really know, because in the past, when a letter went out, it was just signed by CECD2 and didn't necessarily list people. So I don't really know.
I know our last letter written as in the previous term went by individual names. So, because not everyone signed off on it. So, but yeah.
Well, I'm going to go with the fact that almost all of Michelle's answers were legal opinions on letter writing. So I think we can probably set any procedure we want. I think this is non-objectionable at the moment, and I leave to Ushma and Janie to iron out in the future.
Yeah.
Unless there are any strong objections. Okay.
Robin, you have your hand raised. Is that from before? Or?
No, I just want to ask a quick question of Ushma. I sent out the committee date to a bunch of 33 families who were interested in attending, and I got a very prompt response that actually conflicts with our PTA meeting. I don't know if that matters to you, but I know that there's a large interest, at least 7 or 8 of us who want to attend. So,
How late do your meetings tend to go?
they don't go that long. I'd say they're about an hour, and I think our meeting's at 6:30. Fire's on.
Maybe
Would she be allowed to answer?
I'll have it. I could have it start at 8 instead. How about that?
That should work, I think. Well,
Right.
I'm going to circulate right now, and I'll get back to you.
Len, yes,
Yeah, you can add me to that prior letter.
you got it.
That letter also says draft, I notice on top. I don't know.
Oh, that will be removed.
Sure.
And this one, yeah.
Thank you.
Lupe, yes.
Just while we're on the topic, because I know Ushma, Robin Broshi, and myself, one of the letters that was passed, I think either in October or possibly November, we were very adamant about not wanting to sign on. And because it was voted on, you guys just said it came from the CECD2. And we did bring up the fact that precedent from our CEC has always had those that signed on. So is it possible to, put names on those that actually voted to sign on to that previous letter, being that that's the way we're going forward as well?
I don't understand your question.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that.
Lupe, I think all of the letters that we've sent out recently have all had signatures, like names on them, as opposed to just coming from the CECD2, if that's your concern. And that is what's being presented for the one to both David Banks as well as Testis Day, would be that they would go out over the names of the people who have
Signed up.
said that they wanted to sign it.
Yes, I agree with that method. I think we've done that in the past. And then for some reason, it was just those 3 letters that were presented within the hour and a half of the meeting that we kind of got vetoed when we asked to have the signees only added.
I think where we got vetoed was asking for it to be "we the undersigned." But for,
Right.
I think all of the letters that have gone out since then have gone out over specific members' names.
I
Okay,
think
great.
Ushma is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Actually, I would clarify even one further. No, the three that were done that day, we made a one-time concession that we put in. You did put in we the undersigned for those three.
Yeah.
After that, we vetoed because we asked for further legal guidance. We didn't get it, but the majority of the members felt that it weakened the letter to always do we the undersigned.
Okay, yeah, I remember there was one particular letter that the three of us did not want to sign on, and instead of having any names, it just said it came from the CEC.
No,
I think, yeah.
every letter has been individually signed. It was just some letters had said undersigned and some haven't said undersigned, but they've all been individually signed.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Chen, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, I think my view of what we did last time was to it was for me a point of cooperation and goodwill that we used undersign and we listed the people who sign it. I think, by all accounts, if we as the majority have approved either a resolution or a letter, it can indeed go out as CEC District 2. We don't need to put any names on it, whether you agree or not with what the majority voted for. That is your right to disagree, but we have, these are the rules of approvals. So we would follow that. But gesture of goodwill and cooperation, it is to be, we list the names out, but I think, we don't need to put undersigned anymore. I mean, that would be my limit.
Ushma? Yes.
I would just reply to that. This will be something that I think Janie and I are taking note of, and we will put into the overall rubric that we will be looking at in the name of goodwill, since everybody seems to be all about goodwill right now. We'll capitalize on that.
Len?
Yeah, I would agree with Chen. I would also just say, Jennifer, I don't know if this is something we could even address in the bylaws as well when we look at those. But if the CC approves a letter, it's coming from all of us, and that's if it's a majority, and it's our council speaking as a whole, even if there was some dissenting opinion.
I would say, Len, it follows the same path as a resolution. If 6 people approve it, or anything that the council does, if 6 people approve it, it's on behalf of the council.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
And sorry, one last thing on this letter. Ushma, Robin and I had titles for chairs listed on this letter. If you could add them for maybe yourself, Robin, or Lupe. Lupe, if anyone want to identify the chairs, I'm sorry, I want to get it right. If you guys want to, I'll actually share it with everybody who is signed on, and they can put their own designation on it.
Robin looked at it on her phone, and Broshi looked at it on her phone, and she would also like to sign. So all you need to add for me is chair of the Students in Temporary Housing Committee. But I am unaware of what committee Robin Broshi is on, but I'll ask her right now.
That's
fine. Capital planning.
If anyone just wants to take a look at that, I'm sharing with everybody.
But she may not want to be listed that way. I don't know.
And Kush, I don't mind you putting chair of students with disabilities. Thank you.
Students in temporary housing and students with disabilities.
Yes, students with disabilities.
Okay, we can continue.
All right, is there any new business?
Yes, I had one, but I had one.
Double tasking.
Yes, it's a question. At the end of our last meeting, I made a motion regarding legal options for Chancellor's Right. I am curious. Some members voted no. I suspect a no. This is not it's slighting anyone anyway. I just don't want to prolong the meeting. I suspect I know why Ushma and or Lupe said no. This is not a judgment. I just curious for the others. Was the reason to say no because of timing, other concerns, or a lack of, or some other reason? Because I do think that there is a majority of the council that is against it, based on what we heard at the last meeting, and I'm curious for the reasons for not exploring that further.
This is in regards to Regulation 210.
Correct.
Yeah.
I think
I'm not sure.
Len
Are-
has
are
his
you-
hand raised.
Are you asking me a question why I don't agree with you?
No, I think I know. I think you agree with D210. So this question isn't necessarily raised to you, but I'm not excluding you from the comment. It's more people who disagree with 210 disagreed with a special meeting for legal options. I'm curious why they voted no.
Well, may I speak?
Yes, Lenka.
Oh, so I don't remember all of the exact specifics, but I did think at that time it was certainly premature to consider legal options before we even knew if that was going to pass. So I think that was certainly a concern of mine. I also have my own reservations in terms of CECs taking, retaining lawyers or bringing lawsuits. I think that certainly is something I would need to consider further, but my primary reason for voting the way I did last time was that I did think it was very premature at that point, considering that we didn't even know if 210 was going to pass. And I'm still not sure if it wouldn't be premature because we don't know necessarily what the effect of 210 is going to be necessarily, but that remains to be seen. Again, I would need to know a little more, but were you planning to remake such an application, or?
I wasn't necessarily looking to make it today. This might be something that's probably better with public commentary. Yes, I might consider it in the future. Yeah, I think there was at the meeting there were several observations that that the language was vague. I certainly have concerns still about the fact that the Equity Council was hand selected by Adrian Austin, who is an outgoing appointee by an outgoing appointee. And furthermore, at the Equity Council, we still don't know who they are, even though it's referenced 10 times. I know 2 or 3 people did speak up recently at the last meeting, and as well as CPAC, but we still don't know who the rest of the composition is. But it seems to be perceived victims of harassment or discrimination, when I would argue in any scenario they won't, such persons wouldn't make good jurors, essentially, or judges. We wouldn't allow that in any other system of our government, public office, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I think there's several, and I know in the public commentary several lawyers commented as well, and I wasn't satisfied at all with the public commentary answers to them. So I have reservations on many regards, and I don't think it would be premature at this point to explore it further, unless unless the new chancellor is willing to discuss this with us, which I just don't see as a high priority on his list.
Oh, well, let me just respond. I know, Ishmael, you had your hand raised, but if I may just, I do agree with you, but I first of all, I'm not a proponent of 210. I do think it was vague. I opposed its implementation. But I do think it would be something that we as a council would really need to discuss certainly further, not really as part of just a impromptu motion. And I do agree with you also that I think this is something that we might want to just take some public feedback, certainly from our parents in the district, who I do feel already have told us how they feel. But I think that especially if you were considering the possibility of us acting as a council, we should get some public feedback and discuss it as a council, rather than just voting on it as a resolution or just making a motion or a resolution just at kind of impromptu like this.
Well, we can discuss it now to some extent, and we can discuss it further with public option. This is kind of what I'm getting at. But I think let's let Ushma talk and not to take.
I want to leave. I cannot devote this many hours to these meetings. And so I think that the thought that we would use some of the CEC's budget on a lawyer for something that may or may not even be a big deal and might get overturned is absolutely absurd to me. So I'm not willing to enter into a longer engagement on this topic, certainly not right now. And I think further to what Len just said, we need to see how this plays out. Write a resolution, write another letter, but I would be 100% against spending any of the CEC's budget on legal representation on this matter.
Chen and then Lupe.
Yeah, I didn't want to discuss this, after the fact. I would have supported something before the fact to gather engagement and gather families around to talk about it. But after the fact, there's no reason to rush into anything. The holidays are coming up. No one's around. If you want to regroup and rethink and consider, it is true. It just came in, and there's a new administration coming in. I think we now, have the option of time to, carefully consider what our options are, and not rushing into anything. So that's why I didn't agree with immediately starting talking about it, because we're gonna have like I don't know how many, where no one's gonna be around, and we focus on other things with our families. So that's why. I mean, we can discuss it, have a resolution, whatever, at a future meeting.
I mean, at this point, I'm proposing our next one, but I'm thinking about our next meeting. But
Lupe?
I echo Ushma, but I'm very confused as to what the retainment would be for. So I don't know if you mind quickly, very briefly, just explaining what the lawyer paid by CEC budget would be for. Is this for the council as a whole? Is this for individuals? Is this for to appeal the D210? I'm just very confused as to why you would need a lawyer unless you violated the code of conduct.
Again, it's not me, but if that's not clear.
And wait, and let me. I apologize. Yeah, I would just add that, and there's a process. So even if one did violate, it's not like it's this. Who knows if lawyers would even need to be involved? So I just wanted clarification on what it was that you were seeking.
It is not for me. It is for the fact that the regulation as passed is vague and therefore, in my opinion and others' opinion, contradictory to what is mandated by what is allowed actually by state law and federal law. It is intentionally broad. It's, I would argue that many, it was improper in very many ways. And I'm not the only person that feels this way. I'm not the only person on the on CECs broadly feels this way. And there is appetite to contest this broadly, so that DOE, the Chancellor, and CECs don't do an end run around again, which is what I really think happened here. It's you say there's no big deal. I think there's a big deal of just being accused of it, and I think the way that it's framed, that it goes before an equity council of definitely not unbiased individuals, definitely not appropriate to handpick 10 CEC members and grant them extraordinary powers over the rest of their CEC members. It's all improper, possibly illegal. Especially the vague language surrounding, I forget the exact word it is. Someone will probably remind me. Against the best interest of the district. So yeah, I think there is legal room to combat this, so that So the PEP, the DOE, et cetera, doesn't sidestep these conventions in the future. I've spoken many times to Kelly, and I think here as well, that there is horrible precedent by the DOE and broken trust with parents. And this is just another one of those things. We have furious parents who are furious over this, as expressed by what happened last night. Some people may have liked it, but many were absolutely furious. And this speaks to all those issues.
Len, you have your hand raised?
Yeah, again, Ushma, I know you're in a rush, so I apologize. Look, I don't want to conflate. I know there's a lot of legal technicalities between, how this was decided. I don't think we're going to debate that. I don't think we're going to make any progress here tonight on that issue. But I would say ultimately our mandate is what we're doing going to be helpful to the children of this district? Is it going to advance the interests of the children of this district? Maybe at a future time, should one council member or more than one council member of this district be subject to a complaint or find themselves on one end of a 210 issue, certainly then I think that's something that would absolutely warrant discussion. But again, I just don't think at this particular moment in time, with all of the things that are taking place, whether or not that's in the best interests of our district. But again, that doesn't mean that might not happen. For example, should someone file a complaint against one of our members or more than one of our members here, I think that would urgently, warrant an examination of whether or not that would require legal action by our council. I think that would be something that we could consider on an emergency basis. But right now, I don't think, I agree philosophically, there's a lot of troubling issues that I had. I know some people are really proponents, other people disagree, and they pushed for these changes. But my issue right now tonight is this going to really help? Is this something that's really going to help the children of our district and the parents of our district? I think it's a little premature at this moment, but that doesn't mean outside of the CEC, I might not be involved in something, or I might not sign on to a lawsuit or something. But I think as a community education council for District 2, I just think it's premature at this point to look into this issue.
Robin, you have your hand raised? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Thank you. I do think we should probably table this into the new year. I agree with a lot of what was said. I disagree wholeheartedly with the regulation, but I also have faith that Adams and Banks won't adopt it and will have their own policies. And I am hopeful that this will not be an issue going forward, and that we won't have to spend any money or any time on any of these issues. So no matter what our thoughts are about regulation D210, I'd like to make a toast to the new to the new administration, and I think we should let everyone go to sleep and try to stay healthy, and then we can reconvene and discuss this further.
I would just like to add one point in regards to the D210, because many of our council members from CECD2 did attend yesterday's PEP meeting, which went on to like 1 a.m. practically.
Further, I think it was like 1:45, I think.
Okay.
I was getting texts.
And it wasn't just a council members.
One.
A lot of parents spoke too. So this is an interest to our council. This is an interest to our parents. I think what would be very helpful is, because even a majority of the PEP members said themselves there are issues with this D210 regulation. I think as a council, we could write a resolution to pinpoint where all these resolution issues are, and we should pass something that the next PEP, which will be dramatically different, can maybe tackle. And I think there's interest not just in this council, there's interest in councils throughout the city. And I think that's maybe a good first step. But it is an important issue because I would be saddened to find out that council members are afraid to speak up and represent. Be saddened to hear parents don't show up because that they don't feel like they can speak up. So if we can work with PEP and point out what should be changed, and and with the new administration, so be it. So I think that's something to consider.
And Ben, that has been mentioned. I know parents have mentioned to me that they're afraid that they might say something that would get us in trouble. That were we to support them, that could be misconstrued and could lead to something that is a less than optimal outcome for anyone.
Yeah.
Just because we disagree with something the DOE thinks. So I agree with you.
And there are future, a lot of, we have to recognize there are a lot of parents still on with us tonight. Thank you for being on for almost nearly 3 hours. And I hope some of you parents will be running for the council in the coming year or two. And these issues are going to be important to you in the future as well. So, we have to leave a legacy where you are welcome to speak and without fear of being a fear of some retribution.
Can I just say one thing in closing?
Mhm.
I understand what's been said. Len, my only concern is waiting till someone's been accused, I think is, in my opinion, late, because then damage is already done to that person's reputation, and goes back to the issue that I have with I don't have an issue with the formation of the council and how they might have advised the regulation. I have issue with that council continuing to be essentially serve as a jury when there is clearly bias there, intentional or not. It's there. And they were also selected based on perceived, not proven, complaints. So many issues there. And so waiting for something to happen is, in my opinion, late. I am most hopeful that, to Robin's point, that this isn't an issue with banks. But I think there should be precedent. At some point, we need to stop writing resolutions and take a stronger stance, that the DOE can't just do whatever they want, especially when it steps outside of legal bounds.
Len, you had your hand raised.
Yeah, again, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I agree with everything you say, but again, to the extent that we haven't already kind of discussed this issue, and maybe another thing before next month, someone's proposing that that's another issue too. But acting as a district is something completely different. Acting, retaining a lawyer, that's something completely different. Anyway, I understand what you're saying, but again, I think it's just premature at this point, for us as a council, not necessarily for other entities or other people to consider. But I also don't want to get confused that, whether or not there were some shenanigans that went on in terms of how this thing was organized. I don't want to beat this to a dead horse, but how the thing was organized, which I didn't know about as part of CPAC. Again, they made a proposal, that was voted on. So it's not, that's kind of two different issues there. So again, I just don't think it's anything really at this particular moment in time that we really should be considering, legal representation for.
Lupe,
I would like to motion to adjourn the meeting.
I have two more points I'd like to make before we do that. Because we do have a new council member who did join, and Lily joined us. So Lily, please
Yes.
contact me if you want to. If you have a chance to read the letters, we have 2 letters. If you want to sign on to that, just notify me so we can have your name added to the letters.
Okay. Okay, bye.
Okay, and I did want to make one last point to Kush that you brought up regards to legal representation. This is a serious need. Sadie did not answer my repeated questions to her about if the DOE will carry the cost of legal representation when there is a complaint on a council member. I think we have to address this in the bylaws, whether the council will then have to represent the costs, will have to cover the costs for council members if there's a complaint filed. But I'd like to bring that up at a future bylaws meeting.
I don't see
All right.
I don't see it happening, and we're not paid, as people pointed out. But
Well,
sorry.
There might be legal issues. Now, there's a motion to close the meeting. Before we do that, I'd like to say I want to wish everyone a happy New Year, happy holidays, in a healthy and safe New Year, please. And thank you for so many parents attending, and it's just been a pleasure this last 6 months meeting so many of you all, and I really look forward to a productive 6 months. Our council has produced 16 resolutions. Now it's 7 letters. I think we're the most productive council in New York City, and we certainly have the longest meetings probably. But thank you very much, and we do it for you all, for your children, and I think it's important that we continue at our best capacity. And thank you again for so much.
And Ben, thank you. And shout out to the Admissions and Diversity Committee. I see so many of you. Poor Fire has been on for 3 nights straight.
Yeah. I hope
hours
that
and hours and hours.
the change in
Coco
time
also
works.
in Tunisia have been on for all these meetings. And Craig, our whole committee is basically here.
Can we get a hands raised to adjourn the meeting? All right. Have a happy New Year, everyone.
Bye. Stay safe, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thanks.
Good night.
Holidays.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Night.
Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Jennifer.